we are a country in which men like to see themselves as
victims,
protagonists and victims.
Yeah.
I really struggled with it. Also, personally, I'm just very tired of the love failure film, of men just seeing everything that happens to them as them being the victims of it.
It was massive. It's
Yeah.
the biggest Indian re-release. So
Yeah.
you can see that this film was probably immediately conceived as soon as that film did. Matthew McConaughey as a father is always a great genre. You know,
Correct.
from Interstellar to here. It shows that action heroes or protagonists in action films also have a lot of acting to do.
Hi, I'm Anupama Chopra.
I'm Rahul Desai.
I'm Suchin Mehrotra.
And you're watching It's a Wrap, in which the three of us are going to talk about all that's happened in October. What do we want to start with?
Tama, because it's the most recent.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have to say that I really wanted it to be incredible because I just feel like what a banner year for vampires in film. I
Yeah.
mean, Sinners, Loka, Tama. This should have been the trilogy of greatness. But I just found it, not sort of setting up things rather than being its own thing.
Yeah.
That was my sense of it, that it's there to sort of say, okay, this is the world, these are the characters, who will do X in Y, sort of reverse engineered, if you will, from the two Mahayudh movies, which we will see in 2028. What did you guys think?
Moral is the same thing, but it also can be done even as a sort of portion of a franchise. I feel like because Loka did it so well, right? They're setting things up for a huge
bigger
franchise,
thing, yeah.
but yet, the themes, the way they sort of connected sort of vampire lore and mythology and superhero lore, it can be done if, at a very early stage, which is the writing stage. I was excited about Thamma, obviously, because I'm a big vampire movie fan and,
I didn't know that, Rahul.
Yeah, no. I am.
Did you know that?
Vampires and alligators.
I'm planning to visit Transylvania soon, so just to show you I'm a big fan.
This year is the year of Discover Rahul Desai. Sayyara and vampires. Who
Yeah,
knew?
That
I think
Venn
they're
diagram.
connected somewhere, Twilight, Sayara and vampires. But anyway, back to Thamma. I agree with you about it. Just didn't land for a lot of reasons. I think part of it was also its stubbornness to be a love story.
Yeah.
As opposed to the previous installments of the franchise, which always has some commentary, whether it works or not, but it had something to say. All of those movies had something. Here, it was marketed already as the first love story of the franchise. I think it was too caught up in that sort of desire to just be that, because, and I don't mind no social media. It's great. It's fine. You don't have to say anything in every film. Just entertain us and and be creative with vampire, because I love different countries' adaptations of vampire lore. Like India does it because we have so much. We have so much storytelling. We have mythology to draw from, and it always feels like we're drawing from the same source material here, but it's it just somehow making it only a romance. The comedy was dialed down because of that, because the horror comedy franchise, when you're not getting the laughs, it's a big problem. And so it just somehow, and obviously Loka just coming out a month or two before this didn't do it any favors, because first mover matters in genre films, and as does doing it well the first time, because then no filmmakers will attempt it again if it's not done well. And I'm always worried about that when I see a werewolf film or a new thing for Hindi cinema. I'm like, if this doesn't do well, we'll never see it again. I really like Bhedia. I really like what Amar Kaushik does with the franchise. He's really ambitious visually. Not all of the themes land, but I love watching those films. This is a level below that.
Yeah, for sure. But Suchin, did you not think, for me, like that love story, the idea that she turns him into the undead so that she can live with him, had power. Like, things could have happened with that,
This is after knowing him for, 2 days. I mean, it was so poorly set up. And I didn't...
That's the issue.
Yeah.
Not the idea itself.
But I mean, some of these ideas I really liked. I like the idea of how she can hear his heartbeat.
Yes.
That's such a nice, sweet thing which you could have done a lot with.
Yeah.
But it really didn't work for me. I mean, I found it funny that I couldn't feel any sense of chemistry or connection, and these are two people who literally want to spend eternity together. But no, I was thinking about how the fifth film in a massive franchise could at worst sort of go back to relying on formula, sort of sticking to what works, the sort of the comedy element, all of that stuff, and just be more of the same. But I don't think Thamma manages to even be that. For me, it didn't even work as a sort of generic blockbuster, big, good time at the movies.
Yeah, because the jokes weren't funny enough.
Yeah, they weren't.
Yeah.
I have to say, the biggest laughs that came out of me, and I mean this with full sincerity, was actually sometimes at the expense of the film. It was rules that didn't make sense to me. I was trying to understand what the rules were when two vampires fight. Are there really any stakes because they're technically immortal? We won't get into spoilers, I'm guessing, but some of the stuff that happens in the end and how it happens and whose blood is supposed to be drunk and all of these things, I found unintentionally hilarious.
Yeah.
And that's never a good sign.
We now have Bhedia versus Tama versus Sarkata versus Yakshasan. I'm hoping that they go back to more of the Stree energy.
Yeah.
Which was so funny and which was so sweet. And there's it just works because also I feel like there's less swagger in it. They're not, it's not trying so hard to be massive. And maybe that's what happens when there's like so much success. Maybe you just, I don't know. But this felt to me like the writing was not sharp enough. It wasn't fleshed out enough. And that should have really been what kind of powers this entire thing. Because the idea of this woman who's rescuing him all the time, like she kept rescuing him. He kept dying.
I know. I felt bad for his parents after that.
Yes.
Twice they were.
He fake dies, then he real dies.
And also fake dies in real life. So it just...
No, but Rahul mentioned this in his review, which is, very true, that technically she should be or is the protagonist, but the film seems to forget it.
She is.
And and also, obviously, she could not have been more sidelined. And again, coming back to Loka, apart from just the one-liner, so much of this film is so similar to that.
Yeah.
Right down to sort of seeing her journey or her truth from sort of his perspective, and he's more of a loser. Except it's small things. Like in Loka, we only find out her truth when he does.
Yeah.
Whereas here, we know what she is from the start. The entire first half, which I thought was particularly tedious, you're just waiting for him to catch up. There's not much being said there.
Till the action sequence in Delhi.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And for me, the film only sort of narratively started post-interval when he becomes a vampire.
Yeah.
Till then, it's just trying to do the fish out of water thing. Also, I found it so interesting that I can't think of a single performance in this film that I was charmed by. Normally in these films, even if they don't work, there's something. There's some supporting character, there's something. And I couldn't think of one that really sort of stuck with me. It's also interesting that all of these sort of horror comedy films, the friends are always a key element. Just if something's not working, the banter and the back and forth and the dynamic is so much fun. Here, they weren't even friends, I guess because they were trying to focus on the love story, which I didn't feel. And so I just felt that there was nothing to even there was no crutch to even fall back on.
I feel like this wanted to react to the previous 4 films saying we are different. Because he's been saying that in his interviews also, the director. And, don't go in expecting the same formula. The last 10 minutes will full VFX like it's been throughout and friends and comedy. And this is going to be a love story. Open your mind to something different, which is great.
Which is great.
I really like the concept of that. But you can't react to something that's already happened because of that. Those are successful films in their own right for the way they were treated, because horror comedy is a very difficult genre to pull up because you don't know how to switch tones. It's very hard to switch tones. Are we supposed to laugh with the film or at the film? When is it spoofing the vampire lore? When is it spoofing the Stree lore? Whatever. So it's really hard to actually get what the film is trying to do, and you need convincing writing to pull that off on a micro level, from scene to scene, not as a screenplay, but just as a series of sequences. And I think Tama was missing that because there were times when we didn't know if it was trying to be funny about vampires or if it was inadvertently funny.
Right.
And the friends were replaced by the father-son banter and not enough characters in general. And for me, the best love story of the lot so far has been Bhedia, even though technically it wasn't.
Yeah.
The two wolves for me were the best 10 minutes of the entire franchise.
Very moving.
Yeah, there were no humans, which is a great sign.
And it's a big swing.
And it's a massive swing.
Yeah.
And I don't care whether the film worked or not, but that's the ambition I go in hoping for whenever I go for a fantasy movie.
Yeah.
That blew me away. And even to see a wolf in this film not really even looking the part felt a bit off. I'm like, okay, we'll wait.
Which is always, no, I was just going to say, which has always been one thing we can rely on Maddock for. You know, we've always talked about how when it comes to VFX, they're always doing something relatively better than, you know, and there's at least genuine imagination with these films. And this is the first time where even there, it literally felt like cruise control. So there was very little that really stood out.
But, you know, speaking of ambition, I think we have to talk about Kantara, which released earlier in the month, Kantara Chapter 1, which I thought, you know, was just incredible in just the swing. You know, and it's not as lean or as propulsive as the first film. It does kind of, you know, sag. There's a whole section which kind of really moves down, and then you're like, wait, how much more is left of this? And then he just pulls it back together. I think Rishabh Shetty is incredible. For him to be actor, director, writer, I mean, what a triple threat this man is, and what an incredible thing to just not coast on success, not say I've done this before, so I'll do more of the same, but to just go into some other realm completely of ambition. And you know, when Rukmani's character becomes evil, I was just like, oh my God, I did not see that coming. It was just so exciting to see somebody take those swings, because I feel Hindi cinema has just become too timid.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, for me, that's the overarching note of 2025 is how muted and sure, everything doesn't have to work, but give it a shot. You know, and I feel like we're not even giving it a shot. I feel like Sunonny Sanscari is more of the same.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, but in Kantara, it was like he's playing for broke.
Yeah.
Did you guys like it?
I have to be the odd one out. I haven't watched the second one. I wasn't a fan of the first one, but I've always been very fascinated by the reception of both. I'm waiting to watch this one, but I'm waiting till the hype dies down also a little. Till
one
I
of
go
those.
into that space.
Contrarian.
Very.
No, I'm a big fan. I think it's been a pretty good year for movies. I don't think it's been a very good year for blockbuster cinema, Indian cinema-wise. And I feel like this is probably the best spectacle coming out of India that I've seen. I was completely floored by it from a pure execution and craft level. I felt like a kid in a candy store. I didn't feel it as emotionally, and you know, I wasn't as connected as the first, which I just thought was a more sort of straightforward narrative. Here, it felt like 3 films in one. There's a lot going on, but just in terms of how the hell did they pull that off, those massively ambitious sequences, it just felt like the amount of conviction and care that went into hundreds of people really putting in everything to, you know, pull off something. Some of those set pieces are stuck in my head. There's that chariot set piece.
The chariot one, my God.
And I always think about how we are normally very forgiving when we watch these things. Either it's VFX or action. There's always some wonky bit, and we're like, you know, it's fine, whatever. Here, I just found it seamless. You know, the way it was sort of put together, the VFX, the action, the stunt work. It was just so smoothly done, and I was absolutely floored by it. But yes, it is a lot of movie. You know, you walk away satisfied, but also very, very tired. And I remember the first 45 minutes is so breathlessly paced. I had sort of KGF PTSD, where it's just, you can't look away. The only difference is KGF, at least you sort of largely know it's sort of good versus evil. It's a much simpler narrative. Here, you have to pay attention to setting up that world, the kingdom, etc., etc. So you really have to pay attention. But again, just an achievement for sure.
For sure. And you also saw Bison, which you loved.
Yeah, I think it's one of the finest films of the year.
Oh, wow.
I think Mari Selvaraj, when I was watching the film, I kept thinking of the idea of craft. You know, craft is this idea that critics care about, only we seem to care about, a general audience doesn't. But then when you think of people like Ryan Coogler and Nolan, and I that's exactly what I was thinking of with this film and Mari, and the idea that when you operate at that level, you just cannot look away from the screen. The way you use sort of sound and visuals, it's so striking, it's so immersive, and it's this sort of very sort of blistering social drama meets rousing sports drama, but it's also a very interesting exploration of violence and rage, and just the idea of there is such a straightforward, simple way of telling the story. You know, we've seen it, the Against All Odds sports biopic, and he goes to such nuanced, interesting ways of such fascinatingly layered characters who you feel like you've made your mind up about in terms of sort of where they fit in terms of oppression, and they completely make you think of them in a very different way. So and again, like Kantara, there is so much going on here, but it never feels overstuffed. There is a love story, there is the sports angle, there is sort of a massive series worth of characters, but it always stays together. And I highly, highly recommend it. I think it's one of the most powerful movies I've seen this year.
Yeah, he's been texting me every day,
You need to
reminding
watch
me to watch it, and I'm like, you had me at sports drama, but
No, this is fully up
Yeah,
his
I
alley
also-
of sports and
yeah,
rage and coming of age and just the way it
Yeah.
does it.
and
like-
good films.
yeah, that too.
Yes, that too.
I mean, I feel like you're addicted to the bad ones, but that's a separate
That's
conversation.
true. We'll talk about my addiction later. Yeah.
You also saw Dude, which the two of us haven't.
Yes, yeah. So this was my first Pradeep film. I lost my Pradeep.
You didn't
vision.
see Dragon.
I have
earlier.
not.
Okay.
I'm meaning to watch it. I've heard wonderful things.
Huh.
I have to say I struggled with this one. He really is a star. He really holds the film, and he's a joy to watch. But there also is aspects of, I kept thinking of earned stardom versus imposed stardom, because so much of it is you're trying to reverse engineer, the gestures and the moments, and he's clearly trying to ape a lot of very popular stars, and so you wonder, it doesn't always work in terms of him. But the film itself, there's a twist every 10 minutes, and it's unpredictable in, I'd say, a frustrating way, where literally well into the second half, it takes a while to be like, what is the plot of this film? Girl loves guy, but guy doesn't, but then actually guy does, but then girl has moved on, but that guy's interested in another guy, the parents are nice, but they're not. It's just constantly pulling out the rug from under you to the point where it gets very tiring, and you can see the formula to a point of sort of treating these very heavy themes with a lightness with comedy, like Honor Killing, which is interesting, and then it becomes preachy, and then it sort of becomes comedy, and then it sort of goes in circles. And I really struggled with it. Also, personally, I'm just very tired of the love failure film, of men just seeing everything that happens to them as them being the victims of it, which is obviously a subgenre, and I really struggled with it. So it wasn't the most satisfying watch for me.
And Rahul, you saw the Milap Saveri movie.
Yeah. It's,
Speaking of love failure.
I was just thinking of it when he said love failure. Ek Deewane Ki Diwaniyat is the title of the film. I watched it yesterday. It's the Diwali clash technically. It has Harshvardhan Rane, who has his own fandom basically, especially because Sanam Teri Kasam re-released this year, and it was massive. It's the biggest Indian re-release. So you can see that this film was probably immediately conceived as soon as that film did massive business earlier this year. This was unwatchable though. Like, it was in many ways it was hard to, but when I'm in such films, when I can barely basically talking about love failure, just about it's a toxic man, politician, psychopath falls in love with like an actress, and earlier it's a sweet love story, then she realizes he's crazy, he's dar, and then the whole film she keeps saying no, and he keeps showing that I'm going to suffer for you, and I'm going to pay for my toxic masculinity, and that's enough. And there are things which I would say read my review. I will not give it away here. But yeah, it's one of those films. It's an entire subgenre, as you mentioned. There's going to be a whole lot of this for the next
Why
forever.
do you think that is though?
It's
Men.
We are a country in which men like to see themselves as
Victims.
protagonists and victims.
And they're probably not even a supporting character, but it's just seen from their perspective.
Main characters of everything, and we're all complicit in that. So, it's also, the success of films that do it well always contributes to it, right? Like, I mentioned a couple of films in my review, like films which have problematic characters, but then also are divisive and encourage some kind of conversation, like Rockstar and Man Marziya and others. But films like this are very provocative for the heck of it. They're like, how dare you be woke, sort of thing.
I was going to ask you that because I read your review, and it just felt like a giant middle finger to wokeness.
Yeah,
it's designed to like piss off film Twitter.
Very much like in the Animal this thing, but Animal still has Ranbir Kapoor, and you have a lot going on there. But this was this was just a lot of slow motion, 140 minutes, 145 minutes. I think 80 was just like people walking in and out of a room. So the craft has to be there to even seduce your audience, which is mostly men.
Correct.
But I was in a houseful show, so you never know.
There you go.
Yeah, and it was Diwali, and there were couples around, and I don't know if they were loving or hating the film, but who can tell the difference anymore?
But I'd still take a film that provokes some reaction over the ones that you're just sitting there like this. Just
That's true. Yeah, but
for
the
me,
dull, the
Those
flat
are the most
ones.
soul-sucking.
They are tough.
The dull ones.
Which I think is a great setup for Sunonny Sanscari, which was because that was my entire experience of that
That's
film.
not.
I have to say, to feel so little for so long is quite an achievement.
Yeah.
I was just saying that it's insane that this film came out literally 3 weeks ago, and I have such little memory of it.
I know.
And I'm not trying to say that to sort of it really it's such an unsticky film. It just felt like a series of moments and montages, and again it reminded me of what we've talked about a lot, how there's so many projects that try to get away with being packaging alone. The Royals was this, Do You Want a Partner is this, where we'll just do the flashy thing, and this can't even deliver on that. And even though there is a massive craft that goes into that, but even on a basic level like soundtrack or great characters or just a one scene, give me one winning comedic scene, just very little worked here, and it was just baffling. It felt like a very we have people's dates, so let's make a film kind of situation.
Yeah.
And it really didn't work.
But my heart really went out to Varun. I felt like he was, giving it all with the goofy energy and all of that. And I was just like, oh man, it's just, put it somewhere else, It just felt like, so, and you're right, it was, the thing about it is you can't remember anything.
Yeah. I was just, while you were speaking, I was trying to remember the plot.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, is it Param Sundari or this? It's true. It's generic, and this used to be a genre that used to catch your eye for different reasons. Varun, you have a bunch of good actors like Ranveer Singh or like someone, and Varun I like very much. Like over the years, I really liked how he goes into goofy mode and just never lets go. He's not having a great face. I also feel like his genre of acting is getting a little dated in a sense, because there are a whole bunch of new talent coming through, and I don't think it's novel anymore like it used to be 10 years ago, or even
Especially
5
when
or 6
you don't
years
have the
ago.
writing to back it up.
Like there's only so much you can do on screen, and be like that very sort of goofy self. But I don't think it works anymore, because you need the writing, you need the self-awareness, you need the or the spoofiness, and you can see he tried to be like a single screen hero last year. He's gone back to his default mode this year, and it's not landing, and it used to land regularly last decade. It used to, even though he wasn't necessarily the strongest actor in a lot of those films, I loved the fact that he was ambitious enough to keep trying. And sometimes it used to come off. Like not just with Shiram Raghavan, or not just with, Shujit Sarkar or whatever. It just, he used to pursue the craft of acting. He used to want to get better. And I'm not seeing that in a lot of actors right now.
Do you think it's just now that in their heads the stakes have become so high that you cannot take that risk of a Badlapur, or an October anymore?
I think so.
I think for sure. Yeah. But for me, with Varun, it was, even if you're not doing those films, I agree with Rahul. I've always been a big fan of his. But with these last two films, I've struggled to remember why. Because on paper, I was the most excited person in the world for Baby John. Because on paper, the idea of him playing that masala hero makes so much sense. Like he's born for it. And the fact that it didn't work at all, I was truly just so surprised. And even here, the sort of the flashy wedding comedy, you're like, okay, this is his zone. So even when playing it safe is just, and so I'm struggling to just, I'd love to be reminded of why I was so taken, by him as an actor. Because, even if you're going to play it safe, there is a craft to that. If you're going to do a Rocky Rani-esque thing, then we know what that looks like.
Correct.
It's done well.
Correct. Yeah. What was the streaming season like in October? Anything you guys loved?
Loved, no, I wouldn't go so far. But I thought like Bhagwat was the most interesting Hindi film of the month. It had Arshad Vasi and Jitendra Kumar. It basically based on the same source material as The Hard is, which was a show, and which I really liked.
Yeah, The Hard was terrific.
So it's Jitendra Kumar playing Vijay Verma here, and Arshad Vasi playing Sonakshi. It's
a serial killer story.
It's the same source material, same true events also.
Same MO,
same everything, and like Cyanide, Mohan or whatever. And I thought it was a tight film. It was like, it stuck to what it wanted to be. And obviously we are going to make comparisons with a long form show like The Hard, because it was there. There's so much, when you have a show, you can either go wrong with getting 8 episodes and not being able to fill the time, or having so much to explore. And that did that very well, even though, not all of it worked. But here you have a film that's less than 2 hours or about 2 hours, and it's very tough to hit all those beats. And that was based in Rajasthan, this in Uttar Pradesh. But when a nice little investigative drama is done well, and it just, the direction is fine, the writing is fine, the actors are on. Jitendra Kumar, honestly, I've over the years not been a big fan, because it's also an overdose. With TVF, you tend to get slotted in TVF mode. And in films, he's tried things, but I've never been able to look past the fact that he's Jitendra Kumar. He's Jitu Bhaiya. But here, I thought he was used very well. Like, as a serial killer, to think of someone like him, Jitu Bhaiya, basically as a serial killer, not like he's doing anything different. He's still being that guy.
But I was going to ask you about that, because I think I've been conditioned by too many serial killer films, but we're so used to that simmering intensity, sort of that unhingedness. There's something beneath the surface waiting to explode, and he plays it so matter of fact, which I thought was very interesting. But I was trying to, because I love the idea of his casting, but the fact that he's like, this is what I do. This is there is no, which was interesting.
That's good casting.
Yeah.
It's just there.
Was it like, I haven't seen this one, but was it like the Vikrant Massey?
So I mentioned Vikrant Massey in the review as well, because it was Sector 36.
36.
Right.
So compared it to Vijay Varma and him in Sector 36. And the way Vikrant was playing that character in some scenes, where he was just like, this smiley. It's hai to hai. And there's an interrogation scene that's very reminiscent of the very famous one in Sector 36, at least amongst ourselves. I think
all
it was
six
one
of us.
of the great instances of acting last year.
It was outstanding.
Both of them.
Yes,
and it
absolutely.
was phenomenal. And
Deepak Dobriyal and Vikrant.
Amongst all of us. And I thought there was a similar scene here, and you could tell that Jitu has probably watched it. But I think it's a solid, like, it's easy to say you can't go wrong with this material, with these films. But, so many things matter. You can. Texture matters. You understanding the context of the film matters, because here you have a serial killer who's using India against India, like most of the time. All our biases, all our prejudices, whether, caste, religious, it's basically just taking advantage of what already exists. He's a smart guy, he's a teacher. So that's difficult to do if the filmmakers don't understand it. And sometimes, more often than not, the filmmakers don't understand what they are making. I think here was a good example of the fact that they got it. There's only so much you can do in 2 hours. It isn't perfect, but it's very watchable.
How lovely.
I also really found very interesting what it did with structure, because, it tells us it's not going down the typical investigation path, because you're following the investigation, but you're also following the killer. We know who he is. It's just for the cops to find him. And then there is the interrogation, and then it ends in this sort of courtroom sort of ending. And I just found it very interesting how there's such a straightforward version of doing this, where you just, like, he's on his tail or whatever. And I found that very, very interesting. And the very fact that a film is made on familiar material, but still managed to stand on its own. The only thing I struggled with, which I was surprised that, didn't get to you, was I did struggle with the craft a bit. It's very showy. There was a lot of, I've never seen so much usage of light, playing off of other light, it was just slightly overexcited, but still, I really like those performances. So
fun. And listen, guys, November looks
packed.
Yeah.
How exciting.
After October, for sure, I'm very excited. It's not been a great month, because last month, I remember ending the month with, like, Homebound, one battle after another. And, it's just a series of, and I was like, yes, calm before the storm, basically.
Correct.
But October has been difficult, but November looks like
the only reason it's been difficult is you haven't seen Bison. Actually, if you watch Bison, it's less difficult.
Yeah, sure. I'll watch it in November so that I can
cool. Just saying.
Bracket it there. But I'm looking forward to Delhi Crime 3 very much in November, because I'm a big fan of the franchise in general, and I'm very curious to see how it ages in terms of, because even though it's the same franchise, times keep changing, the streaming space keeps changing, and people get a little fatigued to see the same
you can't
investigative
see the same thing again.
The same thing again. And how many true cases are you going to do? So I'm just always fascinated by how they do the same thing in different ways. And of course, you have a new villain with Huma, and Tilotama did a good job last time. So you may see decreasing returns over the seasons, because there's nothing like the first season all the time. But I'm actually excited, because this streaming month hasn't been great, and I hope to end on a high. I don't know if there's Family Man 3, but yeah, soon.
Yeah, I mean, if it does come out, I think that'll be a very, very big year, for a big month for streaming, so very exciting.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, streaming this month has been pretty disappointing. There was 2 remakes, one on Netflix, which was The Game, one was Search the Nana murder case on Hotstar, which was slightly better, but still not the most exciting. So yeah, we hope that November has more in store.
Can I just say that I'm excited about De De Pyar De Part 2.
It's 2. Yeah.
This too.
It's like,
Fun trailer.
I mean, the
Fun
trailer
trailer,
is,
man.
trailer's
Fun
fun.
trailer. And it's just nice to see people
Like-
having fun.
Or riffing on the age difference that we get so annoyed about.
Exactly.
Or knowing how to have fun.
Yeah.
Which I'm at my wit's end with that this year, of people sort of promising what they think is fun and really not trying.
Not
So,
trying.
yeah.
But, you know, the fact that Ajay Devgan can go out there
Yeah.
and sit in a car and listen to Kya Karoon, Buddha Mil Gaya, I think that's fab.
Yeah.
You know, I just think more massive actors need to be able to be that easy with their own superstardom and their own, you know, just be chill about it. It's
Yeah, for
great.
me, Ajay Devgan comedy I will take
Yeah.
over Ajay Devgan as an action hero. I know he's very popular as an action star, but as you know, I didn't mind the Ajay Devgan comedy last month as well.
That's right.
Son of Sardar.
Son
too,
of
yeah.
Sardar.
That's right. You were a fan.
I
mean,
like how he didn't
fan
say it. He just said
is-
Ajay Devgan comedy. He didn't want to have to
Fan
specify.
is going too far, but he is interesting.
It is interesting. I love it.
And Madhavan and him after Shaitan, this will be a nice
Exactly.
change of.
It's such a nice change of pace.
Yeah.
And I love that, you know, he doesn't know whether to call her auntie or mummy or
Ha,
what.
those
And,
are-
and these are such real situations when you
Yeah.
hit a certain age. Like,
It's true, yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
what do you
it's-
refer to someone as? I think I'm excited.
I'll deserve my judgment till I watch it, but
Of course
it
you
looks
will.
promising.
It does look promising. Come
Yeah,
on.
yeah,
It all looks promising. And we have, I don't know when Ikkis is coming, but Shiram Raghavan,
Always.
Always.
For
always
me,
an
I don't
event.
care what the trailer looks like, who is there.
Yeah.
Shiram Raghavan, I'm there.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. Me
We
too.
have 2 war movies to end the year, right? We've got
That's
Farhan's
right.
film and Nikis as well. yeah.
and
So,
120 Bahadur.
120 Bahadur, yeah.
I have to tell you guys before we end that I've just started watching Mr. Scorsese.
Oh,
Which
I'm
is-
starting.
You're starting, which is that 5-part series on Martin Scorsese on Apple, and it is so lovely. It's so moving
I can't
and
wait. Yeah.
just so, you know, it's so beautiful, and it was very funny because we've made the documentary on Rajamouli, and that's alerted me to how much rights for clips
Oh,
cost.
yeah. You're watching it as a filmmaker.
I'm looking at like, man, what was the budget of this? Because it's like literally, he says something and they cut to like one sliver of a shot, and it's just so beautifully illustrated.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, of why he makes films the way he does, and how that childhood and the illness and all of that played in, and of course the church and the rest of it. Very exciting. Cannot recommend it enough. I've only just finished one episode, but it was fabulous. So please watch.
Can't wait.
At the risk of sounding like Apple branded content, can I recommend one on Apple?
Please.
Oh, don't say Lost Bus.
Oh, am I not allowed to? Oh, you didn't work for you?
No, I loved it.
Oh,
I was
okay.
going to say that. But
Oh,
sure.
okay. No, you say it. And then I'll
Please
just take
say it,
credit
because
for
I
it.
haven't seen it.
It's great.
Yeah, it's a Paul Greengrass film starring Matthew McConaughey, set in sort of
About the bus driver.
about the bus driver
Yes.
who sort of saved a bunch of lives, a bunch of kids through a massive fire in California, and it's immensely well crafted for a streaming film for sure. Like it's very rare to see something so well made on
It's Paul
streaming.
Greengrass.
Yeah, but
it's-
normally, streaming film has become a bit of a subgenre. You
Yeah.
can sort of feel it, and this really didn't feel like that. And it really is very thrilling and very terrifying and well made.
Yeah, I forgot the size of the screen while
Yeah.
watching the film. Like I was watching it
Really?
on my TV, and after a while, I'm like, I know we whine about, oh, I wish this was in the theaters, and why is it on streaming? It's an action film. It's so like intense. But after a while, I'm like, this is exactly what they were going for, to make us forget that, sometimes the screen,
Doesn't
it's
matter.
like in cricket, the pitch doesn't matter for great batsmen or whatever it is. So
Correct.
it's for me, I was so invested, and it's just some of the action sequences, and you can see the VFX. It's obviously it's forest fires, so you can see everything. But Matthew McConaughey as a father is always a great genre,
Correct.
from Interstellar to here, and he just plays it it shows that action heroes or protagonists in action films also have a lot of acting to do. We tend to downplay it because we are like, oh, the film is action, it's a lesser form of acting. But if you see Matthew McConaughey in action films, I think it takes an immense amount of
If
skill.
anything, here it's in reverse. So often there's a bus in the middle of so much fire, and the film will focus on him, on looking inside the bus, versus like everything, which obviously does show.
The scale of
Yeah,
it.
but it just
the
showing.
reflection of the danger on his face.
Yeah,
That's it.
and the kids
Right.
that he's trying to save, and it really, really packs.
How
out.
exciting.
I think we recommend the same thing.
All right, then. Well, we shall regroup in November and have lots to chat about. Thank you. Thank you so much for watching.
Hi, I'm Rahul Desai.
I'm Suchin Mehrotra.
You're watching us on the Hollywood Reporter India.
Please make sure you subscribe.